Hey everybody. I've learned over the last few terms of teaching this class that some of you have some very good exposure to SQL and database programming, and others may have heard of it or seen it, but have no idea really how to get started. What I want to do today is show you quick examples that are covered in chapter 14, at least a piece of that, as well as kind of a way for you to play online if you don't have access to one of the SQL applications out there. Uh, and so this web page that I have up right now is called SQL Fiddle, and it's one of a number of, you know, sandbox free, whatever you want to call it, SQL tools that are out there. And what we're going to do here is we're going to put in a simpler version of the database. Let's see, this is in the book here. Figure something kind of like figure 14.6. But I have it simplified just for to make this go a little bit quicker. The simplest way to get data into SQL Fiddle is to use this text to DDL um, input here, and it says it right here in the blue box. So, and by the way, I had, I didn't. It took me maybe an hour to figure out how to use this, so I'm going to save you a bunch of time by just showing you how to do it. But there's a lot that you can do to play with here. So we're going to call this employee, and then it's saying to paste formatted text here. CSV, space separated, pipe delimited are all valid. So in other words, there's a bunch of different ways to bring in data. So if you already have data in a certain format, you might be able to just paste it in here. And you can go down here and click on example input, which is what I did to learn how to get the right format. But here is a file, which I just call ex.csv. And it's got 4 fields: ID, name, pay, and hours. And if you compare this to 14.6, I only have a name. I don't have a first name and a last name. And I don't have a date of birth, right? So you can add that stuff if you want. You may want to. Or, of course, you may just want to use the problems in the lab to go ahead and play with. And I just put in different data. I just grab data from a different program. So I'm going to select all and copy and paste that in here. And now I can move that. And so I've just pasted this in here. And I'm going to click append to DDL. And as you can see, what it did is it basically turned it into SQL code that's going to build, the database effectively. And schema is just another word for database here. And so I can modify this if I want, right? If I realize I want to add more, or if I want to change the pay from an integer value to a real value, or if I want to change the length of the name, I can do all that if I want. Or, of course, I can just re-import the data. But for simplicity's sake, we have the pay as an integer and the hours as an integer. There's date fields, there's year fields, there's all sorts of stuff that SQL has to make this work more flexible. But as soon as I have the data that I want here, I'm going to go ahead and click Build Schema. And you can see down here it says Schema Ready. And so now this window on the right is where I can run my SQL commands. And so let's do the most basic of commands, which is basically to print the whole table. And so we say select star, and star means everything, from employee. Note that I name my table employee. The book names it employees with an S. Doesn't matter what you call it, but you might just notice that I just didn't leave, I missed that. I just called it employee instead of employees. And I'm going to order it by name. A semicolon means the end of my command. I could have typed this all on the same line if I want, but I'm going to go ahead and run. I click on that, and you can see here's my table on the bottom of the page, sorted by name. Now, if I want to instead sort it by hours, I can type that and I can rerun. And now you can see I've sorted by hours, starting with the lowest numbers up to the top, to the upper hours. And so I can just modify this at will. I can type in another query. I can do whatever I want there. Now let's go ahead and get a little bit more advanced here, and let's only display employees that have a pay of greater than 28. You can see that I say where pay is greater than 28, I just get the pays of 29, 30, 31, etc. That is basically it here. You can clear your database, you can start over, there's lots of examples here. But what I would recommend you do at this point is use some of these examples in 14.7, 14.6, and so on. You can go through the entire section of this book here and do every single one of these if you want. Or you can use the lab and go through the lab and use this to check your work. And I will post the sample file along with this link here to this video, and you can give it a shot. All right. Thank you.